Welcome to Unite Now, where we bring unity to you, wherever you are.
All right. So my name is Brian Kenney. I'm here with Alexei, Othenin-Girard. We are both Unity certified instructors, and we are here today to along with some amazing moderators that are very talented. They are Unity experts. They're Unity certified instructors along with us, and they are here to help you out as much as possible. We have Daniel, Mayor, and James, and Nicholas and Ethan. They are here to answer all your questions. So make sure that if you have any questions, you're dropping those in the chat so they can, I'm sorry, excuse me, not the chat, the Q&A. That's the place for all questions, and then specific questions related to FPS Kit, FPS Creator Kit, and then if you just have some general questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. If you've been with us, you do know that we recommend that the ideal Zoom layout would be to put the presentation in the background, or when Alexei's playing the games, you have that wide open, and then the video would go across the top. Zoom's pretty convenient where you can move things around a lot. So make sure you have the chat open in the Q&A as well. If you are on a single monitor, this is what we recommend. Dual monitors obviously are better, but
good work if you can get it.
Oh yeah. Ground rules. Make sure you drop questions in the Q&A. Be respectful, please, and constructive. Everybody's been awesome so far.
You guys have been great.
I don't see why that wouldn't be a problem, but just be ready to follow along. We're not going to be really demoing any sort of Unity, how to do things in Unity, but we will be playing games and giving feedback to you, everybody that submitted not everybody that submitted their games because of time constraints, but if you do want to go back and watch the recorded sessions, you can do that on our Unity Learn Live, and the moderators will post those links in the chat. And as everything, we've been using Unity 2019.3 in here. If you're new, like I said, you can catch up on recordings. Boy, I sound like a broken record here. Does anybody remember what a record is? Technical questions in the Q&A, general questions in the chat, and make sure that you are respectful as well. We do have Unity Learn. It's a great way. This is where we have been broadcasting from. Unity Learn is an amazing site. It has lots of learning content. We're doing beginner stuff, but it has a lot of more advanced tutorials. Check it out, and please get together with us on our Connect group with that link there, FPS Connect. We would love to see you in there. And here we go. This is what we're going to be playing.
So a couple quick things. Yeah, a couple quick things before we get started. I made a mistake. Our moderator is not Daniel Sanchez. It's actually Alejandro Diaz. Alejandro, I apologize.
Sorry.
My fault. We were not able to get to everybody's games. We had about 9 or 10 submissions, which was a lot, which is great. We are going to play the ones that we thought sort of showcased some interesting elements. We may not get to play the whole level. Some of these are quite long. I should warn you guys, some of them, when they start up, they will be quite loud. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that doesn't blow out your speakers or anything, but it is going to be a little bit tricky. Let's see, last things. Oh, right. So if we have the authors here in the chat, please speak up. We're really excited to see your work, and you can ask some questions. Audience, if you have specific technical questions about how a certain thing got done, ask it in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer it on live on screen. Okay, without further ado, here we go. Dr. Sharkitty's incredible cure. So we've got a nice kind of opening to the level. The author of this game is in fact Dr. Sharkitty, and they obviously implemented these neat red blood cells. You can see up here in the corner there's a mini map, so I can track my progress as I go. Oh no.
Well, you've done it now.
So we have a fair number of different enemy types. And boop, 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 boop. There we go. A dead end. One thing to keep in mind if you are designing this kind of level, if there is a mini-map, you have to be careful about using those dead ends, because if I can see that it's a dead end on the mini-map, I'll just tend to avoid it. Is this as loud for you guys as it is for me? I wonder if I can. I don't think I can turn the sound down, which is a bit of a shame. So definitely like that. Rather than just having a dead end, you would want to put like this is sort of a better, or rather the last quarter that I was in was better because it had a room. So I could get to the end of the room and feel like, oh, okay, there's something there. I could want to go to the end of the room. Whereas, for example, this passageway, I can already see on the minimap there's nothing here. So there's nothing that's going to incentivize me to explore that. All of these enemies are effectively not a challenge, because I can just I can ignore them because I know that there's nothing at the end of this passageway. This one too. I'm not sure. It seems like the enemies are getting tougher as I go, so I'm not really sure if that is the case or not. I think we had one or two submissions that implemented a. I think that's the way I came from. I think this whole corridor was a false. Was a false lead. That's pretty clever. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. I think we've had a couple of people manage to implement what do you call it? Enemy pathing, so that the enemies actually try to fight you. Oh, so I can go down here, but I need that red key. Okay, so now I have to go back and check every passageway to see where that red key is. You'll notice that this designer did something really interesting, which was they actually changed the color of the doors so that the doors would correspond with their keys a little bit better. So I believe there's a red door, a yellow door, and a blue door in this environment. I like that a lot. I think the door assets are great because they tell you, which key they're connected to, and the keys have their names kind of floating above them. So all of that is great because it reinforces the player's understanding of which key goes to which door. But having the red key, the blue key, and the yellow key correspond to the red, blue, and yellow doors, I think that's really strong. I think that makes I would expect players to understand even more quickly sort of like what they were expected to do. Now,
and you know what? That's a detail. I mean, I'm big on details, and that's the detail that you don't really think about.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think that I totally agree with you on that one. That's amazing.
And it can really make a big impact on on play experience. Remember that people process visual information more quickly and more thoroughly than they process like verbal or lexical information. In other words, people recognize colors, sorry for the shooting sounds, people recognize colors faster than they recognize words. So if you can, there we go. So if you can associate something visually with like, oh, the blue key goes to the blue door, that will make a bigger impact and players will understand that a little bit more quickly than if you have a bunch of different keys that have different names. In terms of actually making the doors different colors, for people who that's nice. For people who have played around with the hue slider, it's pretty easy to actually change the color of the doors, but you have to be careful. You have to make separate prefabs for each one, because remember, if you change the color of a prefab, all of its instances will change color. So here we had a neat event, which was this red key didn't appear until I cleared the room of enemies. I kind of wish Dr. Sharkitty, or Sharkitty rather, was in the chat. I'm not sure if they are. If they are, I would love for them to drop the script of how they did that. My guess is that they used a pretty simple instance script and just had something that was counting down the number of enemies that were destroyed in the room. But I'd love to see exactly how they did it. There are a bunch of different ways that you can do that kind of that you can implement that kind of behavior.
You know what, Alexei? Sorry to interrupt. If you notice, here's one thing I like. If you shoot the red blood cells, you get -5. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, really? That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I just talked about details, right? I like the fact that they went into the project settings and assigned a custom icon to the build. So there was a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff that we didn't talk about that Dr. Sharkitty went and explored on his own, and I really enjoyed that.
Okay, let's see.
I can't get over it. I love that stomach. That stomach.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, the stomach acid.
There's an engagement ring in there. I love that. That's funny.
The stomach acid is really great. Ooh, here's a nice. Hard to place my shots, but there we go. So it seems like they played around. Oh no, red blood cell. It seems like they played around with some of the weapons, which is cool.
You got a lot of ammo there too, man. There's a lot of ammo.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I don't know. They must have set the ammo basically to infinite, because I haven't seen any ammo. I haven't seen any ammo pickups. Or no, I just have. You can see in the corner. I just have hundreds of rounds of ammo. So
500 rounds.
I got to be judicious. I have 400, 200. Yeah, Dr. Sharkitty definitely set the ammo to be very, very high. So one thing I also really like about this level is you'll notice that the very first branch of the level was boom. In the very first room, there was a door that we couldn't open, and everything that we've done since then has been to get the key for that door specifically. So I'm going to have to run back through this whole level to make sure that I get the. Let's see. I need a different red key. That's interesting. I think. What's our time like, Brian?
I think we got it. I think we're all right. If you want to play a little more.
I feel like we've seen a lot of the stuff that's going on in this project, and I think I want to move on to the next one.
And you know what? I think Dr. Sharkitty is in the chat.
Oh yeah,
Haley.
That is awesome.
Is that you?
Oh, is this a? Here's a
Yeah, that's
boss.
him.
Nice. There's the
Or
red key.
well, that's the author, Dr. Sharkity.
Awesome.
It's
Thank you
Haley.
so much.
Good job, man. It's an
Yeah.
awesome level.
Okay. As a completionist, it pains me to do this, but I am going to have to say that we should move on to
All right.
a different level. He said, desperately trying to complete the level before his time was done. Okay. Thank you so much, Shark Kitty. That was an awesome. Yeah, that was a really awesome. Use of a bunch of the units.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So next, we're moving on. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have the Germinator by the O-Bands.
Let's see. There we go. Okay, so we got our key needed, boss key. That's going to be interesting. Let's see. Are the red blood cells? Oh yeah, no. The red blood cells are also, they're worth minus 30 points here.
Oh no, you better. Those are good. You better not.
Yeah, I better
we
avoid
need those
them.
to survive.
Nice. So this key was hidden inside one of the enemies, making it hard to spot.
A couple people did that. I thought that was a good little.
Yeah, I liked it
that
too.
was kind of running around, just shooting stuff, and I think that's a good thing. That's good.
One of the things that you can the bonus key. One of the things that you can always do is, and when we get into the C# stuff next week, we'll talk about how to do this, is you can have a script that says, when this object is destroyed, instantiate a key. So even if your enemies are moving around, you can still sort of like hide a key inside them so that they drop it when they die. So as you can tell, this is a much shorter level. But it's got some good design. I like that there's a boss key and a bonus key.
Yeah, be careful, because the first time I played this one, I ended it before I got to the bonus. But that made me want to go back and replay it again.
Yeah.
To beat my time too. So that was an aspect I liked about it, the replayability.
So I really love this use of a couple of different assets to make this like gross, grungy corridor. Like, this is a really nice way to combine some assets to make something look really nasty and exciting. Which I don't know which key this is, which is tricky. So I don't know if this is the boss room or the bonus room. Oh, the bonus room. Excellent.
If I remember, there you go. Oh, that's cute.
Let's see. Yeah, it's just a little. Oh, I'm all out of pills. Oh my goodness. Oh.
They're like little baby Yodas.
They're like little babies. Hey. No. Baby Yoda was one of those things that like last year gave me like tremendous hope.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do. You know what? I like that too. And the sounds that go along with those they were kind of gross, and
yeah, definitely.
I appreciate that.
So this looks like the boss room. Hopefully, there we go. Hopefully, I didn't do too much damage to the red blood cells. Yeah, there we go. So again, a really nice
11,000. Wow, you.
Well,
that's awesome.
I'm quite good at video games. No. I would say that, some nice design elements here. The inclusion of a bonus room is really nice, especially because, the game absolutely sort of tracks how much damage you're doing to enemies. It tracks how many enemies you've killed. So, if you really want that high score, you're incentivizing players like, oh, get the bonus room, make sure that you're getting that bonus key. There's definitely one little weird thing about this is where that visual association of keys and doors, like changing the colors of the doors, would be really nice, because a door will only tell you what key it needs if you don't have that key, which is kind of a weird. It's sort of a weird situation where you can get into a place where a player potentially, it doesn't happen in this game because you've already used the boss key by the time you see the bonus door, but the player might get into a situation where they're like, I don't know which key I just used, which can be a little bit annoying. Ultimately, obviously, players want to use every key they have, which is great, but as a designer, you really want to make sure that you want to keep those moments of confusion as minimum as possible. As you want to have as few of those as possible, because every one of those is sort of a moment where your player might like fall out of your game or not understand what's going on, get confused, wander around, and eventually be like, this isn't fun.
I like I'm kind of a mindless shooter fan. I don't know if you ever played Postal a long time ago, where you just I like the amount of enemies in there that you just that's why you probably scored so many points. Holy cow!
Yeah.
But I like that kind of stuff, and I enjoyed all the enemies in there too.
The little shooting gallery is pretty great.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move. What are we doing? Oh, perfect. Okay. So.
Quality level. Good job.
Yeah, definitely. All of these have been fantastic. Let me. Let's see. Okay, so our next
one is Possessed Body.
Possessed Body. So this already has some neat. This already gave us a little hint. The hint is destroy brain walls. I love the use of the teeth as. I love the use of these teeth as like elements. Oh, wow!
Yeah, it's like it's
really
in the skull room.
Adds something
cool.
to the brain room.
Yep.
Do you remember, Brian? Do you remember who the author of this game is?
He's in the chat, actually.
Oh, great.
I don't want to. I'm going to apologize right now. Bojan. I don't. I probably butchered his name. I'm sorry.
Is it Boyan?
Boyan? Yeah, maybe that's it.
I'm gonna make a guess.
Oh, Boyan. There you go.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So first of all, okay, wait. So
he did some extra elements in there too. That's good. I like that.
So as you guys can see, he's added some stuff to some of these corridors. Made it feel a little bit more biological, which is great. Here's our first key. We need the left tunnel key. Does that tell me that this is the left tunnel? Does that tell me that that's the environment that I want to go to? I think this is the left tunnel. So let's see what happens when I get rid of these guys. Oh, nothing. My left tunnel here is empty, so we'll see. You
got to go to the other left, dude.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe it's that fork. Maybe it's that fork right there.
I hate this. These are gross. I'd love to hear a little bit about how Boyan got these lighting effects in. I imagine that this is a stretched element. Let's see.
He wants you to try the special weapon.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Defender of Life. Oh my goodness. Oh, I like it.
Defender of Life.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow. Okay. And so now this goes vertical. Now I'm dropping down, finding myself in in all sorts of uncomfortable places. And here's my left tunnel key, and I just fell back down. So that's right. So this is the game that came with a simple teleportation script, right? This was the game that you could Boyan wrote a little script that would teleport the player and objects around the level. Moderators, I think the different people in the chat can't necessarily see each other's responses. So if our authors are kind of talking about their work, please feel free to repost what they're saying in the general chat so everyone can see it. Ooh, this Defender of Life is very powerful. Everything's just a one-shot kill. Need end path. Ooh, what a creepy environment. Wow.
Well, he says he used the brain material for the
yeah, that makes sense.
So he's combining a lot of different things, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, by reskinning some of the materials onto other objects, you can get some of these weird textures. And again, when you're playing with a small kind of palette, it's great to use everything that you have. I think you guys will notice also that when I move through some rooms, enemies actually respawn, or new enemies spawn in those rooms, which is another great way to add difficulty, add replayability. Also, when you think about traversal, you want your players, when they move through environments, every time you are asking a player to move through an environment that they've seen before, it's a good idea as a designer to see what you can do to make that a new experience, right? Because otherwise you get games where you sort of traverse back and forth across the same terrain over and over again, and it gets very samey. But if you have sort of waves of enemies that pop in, then every time I move through an environment, I'm having a little bit of a different experience, which can be a lot more exciting for me as a player.
Well, that goes back to your point about the red key, yellow key, blue key. I mean, people remember visual elements a lot easier, and it'll allow them to traverse the level.
Yeah, definitely.
Without getting frustrated, because if people get frustrated with your game design, they're just not going to play it anymore. They're going to quit.
Ah, nice. I really liked using that final key as the trigger for the level end. That was really nice. That gives my player something to drive towards, and as soon as they see it, they're like, "Oh, I want that," and then they touch it, and then they see the end of the level. It's very, very strong.
And you know what? That brings up a point, Alexei, that good levels, good games, they're constantly teaching you as you move through the level. And based on what you just said, that's exactly what happened. So that was a good job. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to bring up? Yeah, I think, excellent textures, excellent use of textures. Nice job teleporting things in and out. Really exciting to see the level go from sort of horizontal to vertical.
Yeah.
That transition is great. And especially there's a little bit of sort of impossible geometry where the player drops down and then winds up falling back onto the flat plane of the level. I love that stuff. I wish games did a lot more of that. There are a few games. There's a really brilliant game called Antichamber, Antichamber, if people haven't played it. It's from many years ago, but it's an incredible first-person puzzler, really. Just really smart and constantly surprising you with the way that it uses its environment in a way that this sort of reminds me of.
Yeah, Portal was like that too, man. Portal was very popular.
Definitely. Let's see. Okay,
We ready to move on?
Yeah, let's move forward.
All right. We are now going to go to Very Emergency.
Very Emergency. So this is by our very own Tin Heart Interactive.
Yeah.
This is actually
better be good.
We had a submission from someone who works with us, who was like, "Oh, I'm really enjoying the Greg Lane, who's in the in the
He's in the
chat.
chat.
Let's see. Oh, hang on just a second. Kill that. Share this. There we go. Okay. So I love this already. So again, Greg figured out that there's like the
Whoa, that's cool.
Boyan, the previous author, that the stomach has this little extra bit up at the top, and you can kind of like start a character there, boop, and suddenly they kind of parachute into the level. Oh, Greg has disabled the mini map, so I don't have a helpful handhold to show me where to go. So I'm gonna need to use my actual maze solving skills to solve this. Let's see, the placeboom. That's very clever. Tin Man.
Greg says the tab should bring up the map.
Oh, the tab should bring up the map. Oh, okay.
There you go. Oh, it floats. That's cool.
Yeah, that is nice. I like the use of these. I like the use of these splitting. These like split hallways. Instead of using them just as connecting corridors, Greg has actually turned them into like little encounter chambers on their own, which is really nice. They look really cool on the map, and it lets him hide stuff in them. So I just got the Tin Man key. So let's see where I can use it. Gonna have to go over here. just a tooth. Just a scary golden tooth. Is that the key? Okay, so that's the key for this level.
That's great level design too, man. Look at that map. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is very nice. This is exactly the kind of thing that, like, if a player is moving too fast through the level, they won't notice that there's another artery here, and they'll miss it entirely. And especially because we don't have a mini map, Greg gets to put these little Easter eggs in, where it's like, if I'm running this way, you know, especially if I run this way, I'm gonna come to this door. I'm gonna need the scarecrow key. Now I have to come back, and suddenly I realize, oh, there was a whole second tunnel. There's a whole second pathway here that I didn't even see. Oh my God, giant germ. Gotcha. I think that there's at least one person who managed to figure out how to get some basic enemy pathing together. Which is really nice. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I know that having static enemies is a little bit underwhelming, but you know, it's not nothing. If one thing that I would do that I have done when I've designed these, I speed up the dissolve animation on the doors. It's a little too long. Oh, where did those?
Did you see that?
Go?
Those things were moving. That's cool.
Uh-oh.
Maybe that's a teachable moment. Maybe you got to follow it. Looks like a little centipede, and
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. It's like a tentacle or something. You better be careful if you go in that room over there. There might be something bigger.
Yeah. So these are actually moving. They move along a set path. So they moved through this room. Yeah, they moved through this room and then out into the corridor, and then they came back. Is this something that I can... Fascinating.
Oh.
Huh. I wonder what's outside.
You're looking... Yeah.
Good job, Greg, for putting a skybox in.
I love that.
Let's see. Nothing here. Oh wow. Oh right. Okay, so that's where we can escape. Uh
Very
Greg,
cool.
nice job. Yeah, very good.
Very.
Very atmospheric. I liked your moving enemies.
Oh, you had another weapon in there too, and he, you know what? He was all nervous. He put
Oh
in the
really?
chat, fingers crossed.
Oh,
That was amazing.
okay. I'm gonna play it again just so that we can see the other weapon. So first of all, I really like this placeboom. Both because it's funny and because it's a neat weapon, right? It's like a multi grenade launcher, Helomatic, Germoblaster. We've seen the pills. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. So I guess these enemies actually like maybe they wander around the whole level. Oh, the micro sniper rifle. Ooh, this is a so this is a hit scan weapon, right? It doesn't fire a projectile. It just like does damage, kind of at the end of a raycast, which is really nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just gonna find a couple more enemies to fire on because this weapon is a lot of fun. Bloof! Look at that. Nice game feel. Nice like yeah, that like the sniper rifle definitely had that nice feeling of like firing and then feeling the enemies explode immediately was really satisfying. Um, Somebody asks, how did you change the background in the head? Maybe, yeah,
Skybox. Correct.
yeah, it's adding a skybox. So the skybox is the sort of like it's the image that encircles your world. It's like the furthest thing that's in the world. And Greg notes that the asset is in there
Yeah.
too. So if you didn't play around with the skybox, definitely do that. Let's see. What is our
Question
next?
in the Q&A. How can I make this chain of enemies? Greg,
The
you want
chain
to
of
talk about that?
enemies. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess pathing, setting up simple pathing in Unity is not hard. Most people, the way that I've seen it done, is Greg's gonna get his scripts and show us how he made these. The way that I've seen it done mostly is by using waypoints. So you have the enemy navigate along a series of waypoints, and if you have the same enemy and you duplicate it and you move it behind itself several times, now you have a line of enemies that will follow the same set of waypoints around the level.
Very cool.
Yeah. If anyone has played around with the 3D game kit, which is different from the FPS Creator Kit, so there's a thing called this 3D game kit, which has a bunch of assets, and one of the things that it does is it will help you set up enemy AI very quickly and easily. So it's 3D enemy AI. So the enemy, like you put down a nav mesh, and then the enemy knows kind of like which areas it can move to and which it can't. You identify at what range the enemy can perceive the player, and the enemy will chase them over legal terrain as long as they're in that range.
Good tutorials on Unity Learn about that.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think we'll go into some of that when we get into our next session, our FPS, or not FPS, or RPG session. So
We got time
I
for
think I
one
want to
more?
move. Oh, that's so loud. Some of these, when they pop in, they're just like blasting in my ears.
Are you
I
up
want
round
to.
and round?
Yeah, I'm gonna move on to round and round.
All right, you got it. Adam.
Brian, remind me who the author is for this one as well.
This is Adam Nedman.
That's right. So, very first thing we notice is Adam has helpfully provided us with some ammo. And if I remember the notes for this one correctly, he was like, get the ammo power-ups. You will need them. So, I'm looking forward to that.
I do remember that. There's a lot going on in this one.
Yeah. I need the skeleton key. Good pun. Good. That is a good pun for this game. The skeleton key, very funny pun. Okay, so now the design, you'll notice if you look at the minimap, ooh,
Oh my.
lots of doors. Right key, left key. Okay. Yeah, as if you look at the minimap, you can see that the design, the level layout here is very tight. It's sort of bunched up. And it looks like there are a fair number of forks, places where the level splits, and I have to make choices about where to explore. These can be really great. This is a really great sort of base level design, because it really forces your player to keep track of, like, where am I? Where have I been? What have I done? I almost feel like I would encourage you guys, if you're going to make your levels work like this, definitely, like, feel free to turn off the minimap, right? Let your player have to navigate the level on their own, learn the level on their own.
Teach them. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of enemies. Okay, here's the right key. So I've got one of the keys that I need. But you'll notice, like, I have a choice now. I can go back and open that right door, or I can keep going forward and seeing what I find, in the rest of the level. I have a tendency, as a player, to try to, like, basically get as far as I can without ever using any keys. Nice. I like the little teeth as barriers. But now I feel like I'm getting too far away from that right-hand door. And again, I feel like you guys can sort of see, like, if we did have sort of more complex mechanics around. Oh no, I'm out of ammo for my Germoblaster. I'm almost out of ammo for my Helimatic. Man, Adam was
He
not
wasn't
kidding.
kidding.
About needing to ration our ammo. I'm gonna go back and see if maybe there's some more ammo through that right-hand door.
Yeah, you got to get back to that door.
Yeah. This is the skeleton key door. I need that. So it's even further back. So yeah, as you guys can imagine, if we had a little bit more robust mechanics or really, like, scripting around, for example, enemy movement, but also around getting enemies kind of to appear and disappear in the level. This sort of traversal where I'm moving back and forth through the level over terrain that I've already seen, this is potentially really really interesting gameplay, because now I have to kind of go back through my level, and especially here, because I've had to conserve so much ammo, I could be in real trouble. I'm able to just sort of breeze through these rooms because these bad guys can't hurt me, but you can imagine what this would be like. Oh my goodness, an absolute labyrinth. And
Well,
me with no ammo. This is looking rough, guys. This is not a good scene for me. Also, you'll notice I completely forgot where that right door, left door was. I have totally lost it. So,
well, the author's in the chat. He says that it's going to take you about 40 minutes to get through this level. So I don't know.
wow,
If we're going to have time.
Okay,
It's quite extensive.
We definitely won't have time to see the whole thing. Let me just see if I can get through. There we go. Okay.
It's Jeffrey. Jeffrey's his name. He's in the chat.
Got it. Yeah, very nice. That was cruel. I'm just gonna say that was cruel. I opened a key. I opened a door. I got a key. I opened a door. All it did was open to another door. That's something. Okay, Jeffrey, I don't mean to pick on you, but I would say that is a design pattern that I would use very sparingly, right? Because it sort of raises the question, like, what was the point of the first key in the first place? Now, in this case, I actually kind of love it because it seems like the point of the first key was to give me false hope, which, I appreciate as a designer. Like, false hope has some really interesting gameplay potential, right? You're telling a player like, oh, all you need to do is get the right key and then you can advance. And then they do, and it's like, I was lying to you. The only problem with that is, that can be fun. That can be fun in small doses, but you have to be careful because if you lose your player's trust, they'll stop wanting to play the game. But like I said, once or twice, I think it's fine in a level. I might have at least put a health power up, which we don't have in this game, but we could, or ammo in there, right? So it's sort of like, okay, well, you got a little bit of ammo, and now you realize that you need another key. Good job getting the right key. You were rewarded for getting the right key, but now you realize, like, oh, my journey isn't over yet. I have to keep fighting. I have to keep pushing. So this is a question I'd love to ask Jeffrey. Are all of the skeleton key doors open with the same key, or are there multiple keys called skeleton key? Hopefully he will be able to answer us. Yeah, this level is huge. Oh my goodness. Wow. Can everybody see
wow.
this? This is the full. Oh my god.
Yeah, he says they all open at the same key.
With the same key. That's really interesting.
That's quite a level right there.
This is huge. Yeah, so I mean, this is the kind of level where you absolutely want to have a mini map. You want to make sure that your player has a way to navigate. Unless you are telling your player explicitly off the bat, make your own map. Now, I am old enough that I remember when games demanded that we make our own maps. We did not have these fancy mini maps. We did not have these fancy auto-generated maps. And I think that making maps is really fun. It's still a type of gameplay that I really enjoy. But it's one of those things where you need to know your audience, right? This is the other part of design is like, you need to know your audience. You need to know, who are you making this game for? Is it the kind of person who's going to be like, yes, I get to make a map? Or is it the kind of person who's going to be like, oh, I have to make a map. I'm so annoyed, right? So just sort of important to kind of keep those design elements in mind.
Yeah, you do have to be careful. If you don't want your players to stop because they're frustrated.
Right, exactly.
You want to keep them going.
Oh, here's that left key. It's all I've ever wanted is left key. Gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna open the left door, and then I think we're gonna have to call it because we are rapidly running out of time. Oh, I'm going completely the wrong direction now. Ammo. These guys can't even move, and I'm hoarding ammo. I'm like, it's compulsive. Just like, no, I can't possibly wander around without any ammo at all. Too dangerous. Man, I love those squishy football or footfall sound effects. Those are great. This is another great design pattern. Slamming a bunch of these little 4 square rooms together so that they make like a big collection of connected rooms. I really love that. I think visually it's kind of dizzying in an exciting way. It's tough to navigate. Jeffrey added a bunch of veins to close off certain passageways, which I also really like. So I'd say that was a really successful use of these assets.
Well, he also puts a lot of enemies in between the red blood cells too, so you gotta kind of aim a little bit better. That's nice too. I like that.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Yeah, that's actually a neat design pattern on its own, right? Is like the enemies can't move, but you can use the red blood cells as sort of negative consequences for people who are just shooting willy-nilly. Oh, there's the inner key. So I know that opens this other door. So I like that. I get to use that immediately. What I'm really hoping is that this leads to the skeleton key, because then I could just then the whole level is mine. I love the sized up germ enemies. Just put a bug in for QA on those teeth. They're a little hard to jump. We should make them easier to jump.
Well, Alexei, we are coming to the end of the session here.
Are we really? Are we out of? Oh, we're almost out of time. Okay.
I hate to interrupt your fun.
No.
That must be a good level then, because it's fun. You're
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Losing track of time.
Okay. So yeah, let's get into some last minute stuff before we let you guys go. So, we asked you what you liked about the game design. People really liked making narrative. This is a fairly narrative light, but I really liked the sort of people used the simple tools that they had to really make some interesting dynamic moments. That moving through the floor and then falling through the ceiling moment was really powerful. Anytime you see a giant germ, I think there's a great feeling of oh god, boss fight. People also used a lot of the changing colors, changing scales, adding some simple pathing, etc., to make the experience of playing this game really fun, despite how simple it was. Brian, can you advance the slide for just one more?
Yes, you know what? I just wanted to say something too. That one of the things that I like about Unity is in these sessions, we mostly you, but we demo and then the participants do. But a lot of these levels, they did that last thing that we don't really do in the Unity Learn Live sessions, and that's explore.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to learn is when all you guys take what you've learned and then take it a step further.
Yeah.
That's completing that thinking process, and that's what I noticed a lot with these levels, and that's what kind of jumped out to me that that a lot of people were doing that explore thing, and that's what's going to keep people going, especially when you're at the beginning of your Unity journey. So good job, everybody. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. So this beginner series is only half done. We are done with the FPS Creator Kit sessions, but the next two sessions are going to be C#. We're going to be building a Wild West themed RPG, action RPG, which I'm really excited about. So, if you're here, if you've been following along, especially if you submitted a game, please stay with us. Join us next week. Join us for the next 3 weeks. James just dropped the sign up for the 3-part series, especially if you want to start getting into code, if you want to start getting into C# and start understanding how to do some of this pathing, maybe how to get enemies to respond to players. Some of that stuff is we're going to be covering that in this next 3-week session. And like this one, we're going to be doing 2 learn sessions. So the next 2 weeks will be learn sessions. And then we're going to do another roundup where we get to play your games. We get to see what you created. It's such a good way to kind of get your feet wet, learn, build a community that you can learn with, people who are also working with the same tech, working with the same constraints that you are. Yeah, so please join us. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I guess that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Any last minute questions? We've got a couple more minutes. Any last things that we want to address or answer? I've seen people ask questions about adding checkpoints in the level. Depending on what you mean by a check, yes, definitely it is possible to add a checkpoint in the level. It depends a little bit on what you mean by that, right? If you want a place where the player respawns, in the creator kit, the player can't die, so adding a respawn point doesn't make a ton of sense. But you could definitely add, with a little bit of tweaking, I'm sure you could add something that would, for example, show up on the mini-map, right? And tell you, like, oh, you were here. This is your last checkpoint when the player moves over it. Again, you'd want to, like, tell the player, like, hey, you hit a checkpoint. It's here. Just remember that that's where you are. You could even make it so that the player can teleport back to that checkpoint, which would be pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, I hope that people who have been following along since session 1 have gotten a chance to feel like, they're learning about everything that Unity has to offer. That you guys are getting a chance to really dig in. And again, I mean, this is sort of what you can do with no code. Imagine sort of how broad, how wide the possibilities are with, even just a little bit of C# under your belt.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to dive into the other side.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what makes Unity so powerful is, you can do so much with scripting. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah. As a note, I didn't mention this, but Greg did mention the script for pathing is included in the target spawner script. So if you look in target spawner, you can actually set up a series of nodes that your enemies will move through. Yeah. Okay. That is 11 o'clock here, Pacific Standard Time. Thank you guys so much for all of your work, for these games. They were so much fun to play. It was so great to get to see your creativity, your work, and I can't wait to see everybody next week. And keep it coming, and we're just going to get better at Unity and at C#. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
Good job, everybody.
Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Yes.